As a kid, I went to the very first Star Wars and fell in love with the Millennium Falcon, and I just always had toy airplanes and pictures of airplanes in my life. That's the beauty of aviation and any realm of aviation. There's always something else to know and learn to get better at. A few years ago, I got my multi-engine flight instructor, and I did it right here at Sling.
Hey guys, it's Matthew from Sling Pilot Academy. I'm super excited for this week's video. You've probably seen Rob Holland, whether it's on one of our videos or at an air show. He's one of the most decorated aerobatic pilots of all time, and he's so fun to watch. Today, we're gonna sit down with him to talk about how he got his start in aviation, what motivates him to stay at the top of his game, and what advice he might have for you. So stay tuned to hear his story. All right, I'm here with Rob today. So can you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Who I am? Rob Holland. I'm just an aerobatic pilot. I fly air shows all over the country, and I fly competition aerobatics also in the country and all over the world.
For those that don't know, where did you grow up?
I grew up in Norton, Massachusetts. I was there until I was 18, and then I left to go to New Hampshire. I went to college in New Hampshire, at a place called Daniel Webster College, which unfortunately doesn't exist anymore. But they had an aviation program there, and that's where I got my degrees and where I learned how to fly and got almost most of my ratings.
So where did the bug for aviation kind of bite you?
I've always been fascinated with airplanes and things that fly. As a kid, I went to the very first Star Wars and fell in love with the Millennium Falcon, and I just always had toy airplanes and pictures of airplanes in my life. My mom, when I was 3 years old, brought me to the airport. They had this thing where they could take kids up for like a penny a pound. And I got to fly a Cessna. But when I was, I don't know, 10 or 12, somewhere in there, I went to my first air show. My dad brought me, and I saw airplanes flying upside down. And that was it. I was hooked. I just knew someday I had to fly an airplane upside down.
Well, I think you've accomplished that.
Yeah, I've been working on it for a long time now.
We skipped across a bit. Where'd you go to high school?
I went to high school in Taunton, Massachusetts, a place called Coyle Cassidy, which again doesn't exist anymore. It's kind of funny, all the schools I went to, the only school that still exists is my elementary school. My preschool closed down, my middle school closed down, my high school closed down, my college closed down. It's not a very good track record for me.
Well, what's the one that still exists?
The elementary school in Norton. Yep.
Got it.
Yeah.
All right, cool. How long have you been flying? How many years have you been flying?
I've been flying since '92. So what's that? 32 years now I've been flying. Been flying aerobatics for most of that time. The early years just trying to figure it out, and professionally flying air shows for 22 years now.
Wow. Okay. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Been doing it for a while.
Because there's a lot of them, what titles do you hold?
I'm the World Aerobatic Freestyle Champion currently. I've won that 6 times. 2008 World Advanced Aerobatic Champion, which was advanced as a category right below Unlimited where I fly now. I'm the U.S. National Aerobatic Champion 13 times in a row and currently, and I've won the freestyle in the U.S. 14 times.
Wow.
Yeah, and various other little things here and there, but those are the big ones.
So when you were starting to amass your ratings, you were saying that was in college. How long did it take you once you started?
Well, it was a 4-year program because it was a regular, college. Mm-hmm. So it took all 4 years to get my ratings from private through getting a CFI.
And during any of that training time, did you start aerobatics then, or was it after you got your CFI?
Yeah, so I met a gentleman at the airport, Nashua, New Hampshire, who's still a really good friend to this day, and he had a Steen Skybolt, which is a home-built biplane. And I just happened to be in like an airport geek walking around the airport, and I saw him washing it, and I asked him if I could take a picture of his plane. He's like, absolutely, but would you rather go flying? Yeah, so he took me up, and that was the first time we did a loop and a roll, and it just reaffirmed everything I already knew, that that's what I had to do. And I ended up flying with him quite a bit, learned a lot from him, and like I I said, all these years later, is still a really good friend.
That's cool. What did your parents think when you decided to get into aviation?
I mean, they've always been very encouraging. They've been supportive of everything I've ever wanted to do. My mom still gets pretty nervous to this day. She jokes that when she goes on air shows, she only watches with one eye open. Maybe it's not a joke, she probably does. My dad's all about it. But yeah, they've been encouraging from the very beginning. And I'm the only person in my family who flies, so there's no real history of it in my family. So.
What did you do for work before you got into aviation? But did you get straight into it, or?
I had some jobs growing up. Like I worked at McDonald's when I was 16, and various jobs during college to make some money. I worked at UPS. But once I got out of school, I was basically full-time aviation. My first flying job was actually towing banners. And then I started flight instructing in J3 Cubs and Cessnas out of a little grass strip, and just built experience from there.
What was the time when you decided, hey, I fly aerobatics for fun, I want to do this for a career?
That was the whole point of learning how to fly, was to do it for a career. I just had no idea how to do it. So my initial thoughts was I needed to eventually be an airline pilot to make the money to buy the airplane to eventually try to get into air shows. So I was going down that road, but the whole time, anything I could get my hands on that went upside down, I was getting experience flying aerobatics. So I flight instructed, I towed banners, I ferried airplanes, I flew for a commuter for a short period of time, flew corporate for a short period of time. Corporate job ended up going away because financial troubles with the company. Another aerobatic and airshow pilot, Mike Goulian, had an aerobatic school in Massachusetts, and he hired me to basically run his aerobatic program. And that's when I learned you could fly aerobatics and get paid for it. So I did that for about a year, and then I ended up leaving there, and with his blessing, I started my own aerobatic flight school, leased pits at a decathlon, and started running that. I had that for quite a few years. But
what motivates you to come back every year and keep working, keep improving, and staying at the top of your game?
I don't think that I'm the best that I can be at. And it's not compared to anybody else or how anybody else flies, but just to me. One of my goals all along was just to find out where the peak of the mountain is for me, how good can I get relative to me. And I still feel like I'm improving, and I still feel like there's work to be done. And to me, that's a lot of the fun, is just getting better and learning new stuff. That's the beauty of aviation, and any realm of aviation, is that there's always something else to know and learn and get better at. So yeah, I just don't feel like I've reached the tip of that mountain yet, and I want to get there, so I'm just going to keep going.
All right, well, I can't wait to see how high you climb.
Me too.
Of the aerobatic stuff, what kind of differentiates that from just GA flying for people that don't understand the difference?
So everything in aviation is three-dimensional, right? Because the left, right, up and down. But in aerobatics, it's truly three-dimensional because you're using up and down a lot, inverted, looping, rolling. Once you get good at aerobatics, there's no such thing as unusual attitudes anymore. Right? It's all normal, as long as you're in an appropriate airplane. But even an inappropriate airplane, if you end up in a bad situation, it's not an attitude you haven't seen before that you're not comfortable with. It's easy to fix it and get out of it. So I just think aerobatics as a whole adds a whole new level of safety to aviation and the people who learn how to do it. So I mean, whether you want to become a full-blown aerobatic pilot or you just want to take some upset training somewhere, I think it's invaluable and every pilot should do it.
Yeah, we totally agree at Sling. That's why we do the spin training for the private students too.
Perfect.
For you, what is the most difficult maneuver that you perform?
It's easy to answer, but it's tough to answer. I actually get asked all the time, what's the hardest thing you fly in air shows? And in the environment of an air show, the honest answer is none of it, because it's so practiced and so figured out that it's like walking. You don't think about walking, you just do it. Because when I'm in an air show environment, I don't want to be I hope this works, or all my concentration on making the figure work. I want my concentration to be on where's the ground, where are the people, where's the wind coming from, what's the density, altitude. All the important factors that, keep you safe, keep the public safe. So I won't actually put a figure in my air show until I don't even have to think about it anymore. Now, trying to learn a figure and put it into a sequence, that could be a process. It could be a long, sometimes it's up to 2 years.
Wow.
Trying to work on a figure enough that it's a showtime and you can actually put it in a routine. And then you can't just put it in a routine because there's a lot of energy management involved. So the figure before it You have to have the energy to go into it, and then it has to lead into something else. So putting that puzzle together is also a challenge.
How regularly are you switching that up? Is it different every air show, or is it sometimes you're using chunks and then just like adding on different pieces?
No, so the beginning of every season, usually March, I take March to practice full time. My plane goes down for maintenance in the winter, so I don't do a lot of flying, so it gets me back into it, gets the skills back up, and to get ready for the next season. And during that time period, I organize my show for the year, and once it's set, that's the show for the year. I don't modify. I mean, if like the weather's ceiling's low, I know figures I can take out, but you're never adding anything in, you never improvise anything. It's just a set choreographed show. So yearly I change it, but that's it.
What is your favorite thing to do in the aircraft, in your aircraft?
There's a lot of things. I mean, obviously the aerobatics is awesome. Particularly, I like a lot of the tumbling maneuvers and whatnot. But what I get the most joy out of is just trying to make the entire flight as perfect as possible. I mean, there's no such thing as a perfect flight, but always striving for it. Trying to make that, all those pieces actually work right. Have an entertaining show for the crowd from the time the wheels come off the ground to the time I'm back on the ground. Just trying to make it all work, the discipline of making it as perfect as possible, as safe, but still look wild and crazy when there's still a lot of margin for safety in there. That's what I enjoy.
How many G's are you pulling in a show, and then how many G's are you pulling, in practice or competition?
Well, I just got back for the Nationals, and I haven't reset my G meter yet, and it's at 11 and minus 9.1 right now. So you definitely pull more in competition than you do in air show. Like when I got back from the World Championship, there was 12 and minus 9.2 on there. So, which is about right for competition in an airplane like mine. Air shows, you don't have to pull quite as hard. So I might see 9, 10 in minus 6 or 7. Yeah.
Wow, so
but it's still a lot, but not
pretty intense.
Yeah, yeah.
So, along with your constant pursuit of getting better, what is the most recent rating that you've done?
A few years ago, I got my multi-engine flight instructor, and I did it right here at Sling. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. It was a great program. I don't really have a lot of need for it, but I just like having ratings. It was fun to do, another way to self-improve, and this was a great place to do it. Yeah.
It's one way to get out of a biannual, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I check that box also. Yeah.
So, we were talking about how many G's you pull and how intense that is. How do you train for that? How do you prepare yourself for something like that?
You have to start slow and build up over time. So with the positive G's, I mean, I can take the winter off, jump in the plane. I can pull a G's right away, but I get tired fast. So I don't have the stamina, so to speak. The negative G's, if I don't do them for 2 or 3 weeks, I'm almost starting at 0 and have to pull up again. That goes away fast. So at the beginning of the season, it's, pulling G's, and I start low, like -2, -2, -2, -2 for a few, then -3, -3. And you just build up over time. And then it's just a matter of like maintaining it during the season. You can't take a lot of time off. You got to go out there and keep up with it. And then if you do take a little bit of time off, being smart and practicing ahead of time to try to build it back up again so you don't hurt yourself.
So it's quite a physical toll then.
It's a physical toll. Yeah, it's just time in the seat really, and being smart about it. Yeah.
What are some of the risks that you deal with when you're doing competitions, and how do you mitigate those risks?
So, I mean, there's risks in everything, right? And if someone was to just jump in my airplane and go try to do what I do, obviously it'd be very, very dangerous.
Don't do that.
Yeah, so everything's about skill level and experience and judgment. Judgment is huge. So it's being on the journey and taking the steps to get there, not trying to skip steps along the way. Like in an air show environment, the ground's pretty hard. No one's ever beat that record, right? It always wins. So you got to be smart. You have to build margins into your figures. Gauge like an altitudes to know, like, I have to start this at this altitude. I can't start it below it because if something goes wrong, there's no room to recover. Practicing mistakes. This figure could develop into this, or this is what could go wrong, or if it's 0 airspeed and the nose is straight up and the engine quits, how much altitude do I need to get to a flared attitude? Working all those numbers out and practicing them all the time. And then when you put your show together, obeying those numbers. That's what keeps you safe. The risk is just directly proportional to your experience and your skill level.
Last question. So For those people who are in aviation right now, and they might be one of those people that's at air shows watching people like you, what is the next step for them in getting into aerobatics? Where do they start?
So the first step is join the IAC, International Aerobatic Club, IAC.org. There's chapters all over the country. Those are people, or the organization that sanctions like aerobatic competitions and whatnot. There's great resources there about like where different aerobatic schools are or different aerobatic flight instructors. So it's a great source of information and a great community. 2, try to find somebody with an aerobatic airplane near you. Get to know them, introduce yourself, ask questions, ask where they learned, ask if they're an instructor. And then 3, just don't give up. The way to do this is to be in it for the journey, not for the destination. Like, I don't ever want to get to the destination because I'm enjoying the journey too much, right? There's so much to learn and so many ways to get better, so many people to know. It's a great community. So just be ready for the long haul and have fun with it.
So I saw a pretty cool logo on the tail of your airplane. What's that about?
Yep, so I have Sling Pilot Academy on the tail of my airplane. We've been a partner for a couple of years now. I love representing the school because I believe in it. It's so cool to come here. I haven't been here for a year, and it's great to come back and see like how much it's grown, how many students there are, how many airplanes there are, and just how excited everybody is. Like everyone I've met that's here is happy to be here and they're having a good time. And that's great. That's what aviation should be about. Right? So yeah, it's been a really good partnership. I love representing the school, and I can't wait to come back another year and see how much more it's grown.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks for watching the video. If aerobatics sounds like it might be for you, then come down to Sling and try out our Super Decathlon. And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe. It helps the channel and we really appreciate it.